It was when I was in seminary, but it didn't have anything to do with my seminary courses, ironically. I was in the cafeteria at lunch one day, and I had finished up, was on my way to class, and something caught my eye in the hallway, the foyer of the cafeteria. And I walked down, and someone had set up an information booth, and it was a woman from the Salvation Army. She had driven up from DC. I was at Princeton, and she had just this little setup with a poster, and I walked over to it, and the poster completely stopped me in my tracks. It was there's no two ways about it. It was a defining moment in my life. I looked at the poster and it said two things. It just said, slavery is alive. And then underneath it, it said, rape for profit must be stopped. This was about the year 2002. And I, at that point, had no idea that slavery still existed in our world today. I had heard a little bit about things like sweatshop labor and poor labor conditions. I wasn't that connected with what was happening in the world, but slavery, where human beings actually own other human beings and keep them under force and brutalize them and use their power to hold them for their lifetime or until they're discarded. I had no idea that was happening in our world. And then this phrase, rape for profit, was something I had never even considered. And I actually had a passion for issues related to sexual abuse, especially among children. That was something I came into seminary carrying with me, but I had no idea that there was an entire industry, a multi-billion-dollar industry that was profiting off of the exploitation of women and children. And when I saw these two things written on the poster, I just looked at the woman from the Salvation Army and I said, what do I do? I was completely stunned, and she slid a piece of paper over to me and said, put your name on a mailing list. And that's what I did. And that small step opened up an entire lifetime of change for where my world was headed. When I first learned about slavery and this rape for profit industry, it all falls under this umbrella called human trafficking. And when I first started learning about human trafficking, it was paralyzing to me. So I started ingesting information from that mailing list that I put myself on, but it was far more than I could comprehend. And I did not feel a sense of action. I felt a sense of paralysis and total overwhelm. And I couldn't figure out how this newfound burden I was feeling for human trafficking related to a call that I was sensing. The whole reason I was in seminary was to serve the church and to find ways to follow Jesus more wholeheartedly. And I didn't see the connection between those two things. But when I started interacting with International Justice Mission, Kirsh Kandiah is the founder of that organization. And from the beginning, he has led the organization with the belief that justice begins in the heart of God, and that justice it's not an abstract concept. It's not just a societal good. When we hear about human trafficking, our very best impulses can burn out. But when we start with the heart of God and we start with who He is, that's where a justice passion that perseveres can grow. And so for me, faith makes the entirety of the difference when it comes to pursuing justice over a lifetime. Well, it was definitely counterintuitive because I was actually in the middle of a book manuscript that was already overdue. And so to commit to another project didn't make sense, except that I was just so deeply passionate about the fact that this Bible was being put together. The book that I was working on was actually tracing from Genesis to Revelation God's character of justice, and I already deeply believed that this is something people needed to understand, is that justice isn't just a matter of a few verses sprinkled throughout the Bible, but it's in the entire arc of the story of who God is and who God's calling his people to be. And so the fact that there was a team of people coming together from all over the world, just the diversity of the voices that were going to be represented, and the fact that they were going to trace this critical and so overlooked aspect of who God is and who he's calling us to be all the way through the Bible, and to help every single book of Scripture come alive. That was absolutely something I couldn't say no to. And it, I think it'll be for decades to come, just one of the things I'm most thankful that I had a chance to be a part of that project.